I'm Mark Tilley and welcome back to Dirtbike Magazine's video series, Off-Road 4 Strokes. Today we're getting our first chance to ride, well, not really our first chance, we're getting a chance to continue testing the 2023 Husky FX450. The 2023 Husky FX450 is almost identical when it comes to looks and setup as the FC450 from Husky, but it does have some changes. This bike is predominantly used for off-road closed course competition. It has a slightly larger tank than the motocross model. It has an 18-inch rear wheel, softer overall suspension settings, but it does share the same chassis, the same bodywork, the same wheels per se. It has an 18-inch rear wheel. It does have an off-road specific Dunlop AT81 in the rear. In the front, Husky decided to go with the MX33, which is what comes stock on their motocross models. They just felt that it gave the bike a little bit more traction and a little bit better rider feel up front. Just like the FC450, this bike does have the lower stature suspension compared to its brother, the KTM. The bike is at the center line is about 15 millimeters lower than what the KTM is, and what Husky was trying to do is make the bike a little bit more controllable. When it comes down to it, some riders like it, some riders don't. It's kind of personal preference. This bike does also come with all the features that the motocross model does when it comes to the mapping button, the brand new styling of the start and stop button on the right hand side of the handlebar. It's got the quick shift option, it's got the traction control option, all the same options that the motocross model does. Overall, shares basically the same DNA that the other Huskies do, but with some off-road necessities thrown in there. If you're looking for the full in-depth specs on this motorcycle, head over to dirtbikemagazine.com. That's enough talking, we're gonna go ride. So we've had a pretty decent amount of time on this motorcycle. It's not a thing that we got to ride it for a day and then it's went away. We've gotten to ride it a few different times in different kind of settings, and this bike really likes to be ridden hard. It's fast, and for some trail situations, it might be a little bit too much power for certain people on certain trails, especially tight technical trails. It's got a lot of power. Even when you're riding it in a non-aggressive map, it's still got a lot of power. It's really linear power to where it's kind of spread out, but when it hits and you can feel it. And some people that might be a little bit too much. For those people, there is the mapping options to where you can do different maps, and then you can program the ECU and do all that kind of stuff as well. And then suspension wise, if you're a Husky guy, you're coming from an older generation Husky, this bike's gonna feel a lot stiffer. There's a lot more feedback into your hands, there's a lot more feedback into your feet. The bike isn't gonna squat as much on the trail. Coming out of corners, it's not gonna give you that squat feel to where you feel the hookup. You still have the hookup, there isn't gonna be the squat because of the new frame configuration and how they're isolating the way that the rear shock works compared to the front of the bike and the fork working. We do off-road like the lowered suspension effect of the Husky. It makes me personally feel like I have a little bit more control over it, but it does bring out the shortcomings of the air fork. Small chop on the trail and even on the track, you're feeling that a lot more, and it comes back in your hands now, whereas maybe before on the other chassis, it might have spread it out along the length of the motorcycle. Overall, this has a way stiffer feel and a way harsher feel. So if you're really on it and you're racing this thing and dialing in your suspension and everything, you gotta kind of expect that it's gonna have that harsher feel all the way around. And for guys that are pushing it hard on the track and pushing it hard on maybe a work style course or a GNCC style course or maybe even the NGPC, they're gonna want that. They're gonna want the more feel of the motorcycle on the ground. But for the guy that's looking for a little bit more comfort, you might have to dial the suspension in a little bit more, take a little bit more time. This is the first year on this chassis on the off-road bike, so there is gonna be some dialing in of suspension and getting to figure out what you like. All the stuff we've come accustomed to on liking on the Huskies, the really strong brakes, the hydraulic clutch, the adjustability when it comes to mapping and on-the-fly adjustability. We do notice that the starting, because in off-road you will do a lot more dead engine starts, you have to push that button pretty hard. Even when you're trying to stop it, you have to push the button pretty hard. It is on the right-hand side, so it might work a little bit better for those guys in the racing department, getting just kind of quick access to it, and then you have the throttle right there. We do like that side, and I think that comes directly from the racing department. But no, you gotta push that thing. You gotta really push it. It's not like before to where you just kind of tap it. You gotta really put your thumb to it. But overall, this bike is a great platform. Once we kind of dial in and we want to do a lot more suspension testing, maybe do some testing with the WP guys and try that cone valve insert or the cone valve fork all together to maybe get some of that rider comfort back. Dialing in the rear shock is going to be a little bit different because that's all brand new stuff. But positive stuff to take away from this particular bike test is the bike's got more power than you know what to do with. The suspension on the stiff side, but for those racers that are looking for that, it fits them perfect. And Husky did build this bike for closed course competition use. So it kind of hits the mark that they built it for. It's just whether or not you're ready for the stiffer overall chassis feel and all that power. If you want to see the full test on the 2023 Husky FX450, check out an upcoming printed issue of Dirtbike magazine, and that will go live on dirtbikemagazine.com as well. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button to stay up to date on all of our latest releases. We have a lot more videos like this. We got some off-road two-strokes coming, we got some project bikes coming, so there's always new stuff on the channel, so don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And if you got a little bit more time on your hands and you want to check out some of those videos, hit that video thumbnail now.